composition sped up, and composition is improvisation slowed down. So that can be a good vehicle for composition. Like, you know, Lenny Pickett has that real methodical thing where he gets up in the morning. He has this fresh grapefruit juice. He takes one bomb. I don't know if he wants this to be known. I don't know if I've heard of it. So he has a jazz cigarette. then he improvises. Then he improvises into a tape recorder, right?
Yeah.
For a certain amount of time, like 10 minutes or something. Then he goes on a bike ride. And then he comes back home and transcribes what he improvised. He does that every day, or a certain amount of days a week. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a very methodical approach. So, you know, you can extract, you know, compositional ideas from improvisation in many ways. I find that's very useful, and it seems to be more relevant and have more staying power. You know what I mean?
I mean, as far as having the melodies come out of your improvisation.
Yeah, when I'm writing on finale or something, or you know, on a score, it's just a lot of times when I'm done, it's this is total bullshit. Yeah. You know? But when it's coming from from your heart, just if you're in that improvisational mindset, we all are professionals, so the band, I think it can be a really good way to write.
I actually I started writing, in high school. I realized the value of writing in high school. I'd sit at the piano and write, and write on my horn, and I found it very limiting because of my technique. Just trying to get beyond the technique to what I was really hearing, and so I think Keith Jarrett kind of inspired me to because Keith Jarrett's songs sound so complete. The way it sounds like they just came right out of his head onto the piano, and he's he's got so much technique that I can see him being able to write on his instrument and go right to the from his mind to the instrument. Well, I can't do that, so I resorted to most of my music comes from melody completely, and
There's nothing to see here. Go ahead, Carl.
So most of it's I have hours and hours of tapes of me just learning melodies, and every once in a while I'll go through them and pick out a couple of things, but it's just it's an ongoing process. I do it all the time. That's kind of how I write, and if I have an idea for something. If something comes in my head, then I try to go right to a recorder so that the idea that's there, I can move on with it as freely as possible, and then I'll go back and, there's a couple of melodies, a song like A Shorter Path off of Dance Lesson No. 2, which is a really involved melody, and I wrote that thing probably 8 years before I actually could harmonize it. Before I could sit down at the piano and actually figure out the harmony. It was things like that where I definitely wasn't at the level musically to finish them when I first heard them, but I could hear them. So I always thought that was a great thing to do. I recommend that to anybody who kind of thinks they would like to write, because your voice is
piano's kind of the universal writing too.
Yeah.
Regardless of what instrument you play.
And your voice is your voice, so.
The cool part about the piano too is you can you have this melody like you're talking about, and you can there's so many different chords that work over this one melody.
Yeah.
So if you can, the cool part about using the piano to write is you're okay, be-do-da, and you're okay, let's play this chord. Be-do-da. Okay, let's try this chord. Be-do-da. This chord. All there's 60 chords or whatever that work over this one little melody.